What's up, beautiful people? It's your girl, it's Leanne. I am here with our Shedding into Soul Culture podcast 41 with my amazing divine brother, friend, soulmate from brother from another mother, and beautiful harmony of paths coming together, learning more about this divine experience of who am I. In this podcast, we're going to welcome Udo Erasmus. And New Year's Eve, we had a beautiful function where we heard a little bit about a long journey that Udo's had with writing a book. And he's on that pathway of explaining his art of writing, his art of connecting through writing and the divine. And this podcast is all about what's coming next with Udo and his divine lineage. So let's start with maybe you can talk a little bit about how this whole book started, Udo.
Well, I guess this book started in 1942. That was the year I was born, right? And I
Mm,
was in the middle of the war, and we were in Europe. And at the end of the war, I was 2.5. It was winter. We were fleeing out of Poland westward because the communists were chasing us in tanks and trucks. We're on dirt roads in horse-drawn hay wagons, mothers with young children, no military presence. And the Allies, we like to think of them as the good guys in the war, they were using us as target practice.
mm,
So we got caught between the communists and the Allies and getting it from both ends. So my mother decided that it was safer to get off the road and walk across the fields through the snow than it was to stay on the road. But she had 6 kids with her, and she could only take 2 with her. So she had to leave 4 kids behind. And we ended up in an orphanage for a while. And then her sister found out that she had to leave us behind. Can you imagine a mother having to do that kind of a Sophie's choice? Holy
mm,
smokes, right? And then
yeah.
she came and found us and we got reunited. And I don't remember a lot other than I didn't feel safe. And for like a lot of my life, I never felt safe. I never knew what I could trust because every day was a new story because it was so chaotic. You know, my advice is don't raise kids in a war zone. Right?
Mm,
Right? Hello.
mm,
Anyway, and when I was 6 years old, I listened to adults argue and they were just like so intense and it made me really uneasy. I was very sensitive to it. And it occurred to me, man, there must be a way that people can live in harmony. And this little
mm,
cocky voice of a 6-year-old who doesn't know how complicated everything is, I'm going to find out how. That's been my driver all my life. So went into science to try and understand how things work. And
mm,
then I got into biosciences because I'm actually more interested in living things and life than I am in rocks and atoms, even
mm,
though everything's involved. And then I got into psychology and I went to biology. I wanted to know what life is. And I thought we would eventually get a beaker that was half filled with something liquid and shining. And we'd all say, wow, there's life. We never got that. We got form and function in biology. You don't actually study life in biology.
mm,
And I said to my lab partner one day, I said, we should study ourselves. This is like I'm 18 at this point. We should study ourselves because we have form and function together and life all together. And
mm,
we'd have to kill ourselves to get to know ourselves. Well,
mm,
my lab partner's eyes just glassed over. He totally didn't get what I was saying.
mm,
That was the only conversation I had. But I had religious experiences of awe about how incredible living things are. So
mm,
it was very interesting. Like Einstein was a mystic. I have mystic tendencies.
mm,
And mysticism is a science, just like external science, only it's an internal science. It's you discover, you become aware of it, and you discover what's within you. But it's just as objective and it's just as real. All it is a shift of focus from outside to inside.
that's guiding you.
Focus of awareness, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then if you want to know who you are and
Mm,
what you are and what is a human being and what are you capable of and what are you made of, well, you have to spend time with yourself. You don't spend your time with everything else, looking at everything else, and get to know yourself that way. And I
Mm.
don't know why we have this thing about spending time quietly alone, being with yourself, feeling what it feels like to be alive. I don't know why we have a problem with that. Because a lot of people have a problem with that, right? Oh, gotta be doing something, right?
Mm.
But you can, what's more important, being or doing? Most people think doing is more important. But
Mm.
actually, you can be without doing, but you can't do without being. So being is actually the foundation. And if you're not spending time with yourself, being aware, you're actually living without foundation. And
Mm.
that's why the world is as crazy as it gets, because we live without foundation, and then we get into our head instead of being in the body or in the energy or in our hearts. And our head is just a computer. If it's not getting its direction from the heart, it just, killing and healing is just the same for the computer.
Mm.
It's just carrying out something. So and why we're so crazy is because we don't cultivate heart presence.
Mm. So good. There's a lot said in there. There's a lot of nuggets of beingness, heart presence, the art of mysticism, and these
Yeah.
facets. I just taught 2 classes prior to this podcast, and
Mhm.
each reflection is like just showing up with this beingness. Because what's interesting in knowledge, when the masters are giving us knowledge, they're like, "Hey, wake up early so you can have more presence." And why was it always like that written in the scriptures? Like there was, according to Vedanta or yoga, that Brahma Murta is there, right? So what is the meaning there? So that was part of my dialogue this morning. And now that I hear that mirroring reflection, it's like, yeah, like people are seeking peace and they're seeking aloneness or time to do this beingness, but there's actually a system in yoga that helps you with that. It actually tells you, hey, listen, you wake up at this many hours prior to sunset and you do these type of asanas and you do
Mhm.
this type of breath work, your longevity of your experience of this beingness becomes a whole other world for you to discover you in this mysticism. So there's a highlight to reflect with you while we start talking about, the nectar of these nuggets and how your life story, karmas, like the karma of action and reaction is where humans are. Like if they're in more of their beingness, if they're waking up earlier and they're doing their connection to the divine, is there really going to be more reaction or is it be more responding
Well,
naturally?
it's
You know?
naturally going to be more responding because you're not triggered because you're actually conscious. You
Exactly.
get triggered by being not conscious, unconscious, and then there's some residue of some experience or memory of some experience there. And then that gets triggered, and then you have a knee-jerk reaction. It's like how when the doctor hits your knee and your leg kicks forward. He's testing your reflex. Well, triggers are like that. And then what do you do? How do you disconnect the triggers? Best way I know is you go deeper than the trigger can go, because the trigger is mental, emotional, and
Mm.
and the essence of the essence of my individual being
Mm.
is in the realm of energy,
Mm.
and the universal being is the realm of consciousness, awareness, or you could say space, or the field, as the physicists talk about it, right?
Mm.
But there's no trauma in those places. There's no
Mm.
trauma in the energy. There's no trauma in the awareness. And if you can find your way to that, and it takes some practice because we're always going out automatically to respond to change through our senses, right? But if you can take that stillness time and you can go deeper to that, you go deeper than trauma can go, and you can literally float out the trauma and get it resolved.
Mm. Yes.
Because the peace that is your universal essence is not affected by trauma. It
Or the
remains
emotions.
peace.
Yes. But
Yeah.
that's we were talking about the cosmic consciousness there. the main thing is when we talk about dropping in deeper, what is the dropping into deeper? It's stilling the body first, because body mind need to connect to overcome body mind, to overcome mind. So when we use the body to still the body, even in a position like a lotus position, the whole science of that beauty of the body sitting still, then we learn about the nadis, the Shushmana nadi, and how energy flows up the spine and stills us into this universal enlightened state. So, yes, going deeper would be talking about it, but the formality or the methodology is what all yogis do when they sit still. It's just the erect spine. We already know right there. If I'm engaging my core and I'm pulling up my root chakra to my crown, I've already allowed the flow space and the rest of this universal five elements to work
Hmm.
through my body to still me and be still and know. So, yes, the method
Yeah,
of
yeah,
going deeper.
yeah, and what you also, because you're talking about something that's in your body, so you're pulling your focus into your body just by even talking about it. You talk about your spine. Well, the spine is like inside of you, right?
Mm,
Or some people say, can you bring your focus into the space your body occupies?
mm,
Or can you bring your focus into the middle of your head?
mm,
Or they say third eye on the outside,
mm,
but actually your head is filled with light,
mm,
right? So
mm,
can you bring your focus there and sense that and experience that? Because
mm.
there's a lot in the experience of being alive that is an incredible gift that nobody can enjoy for you. So if you don't enjoy it, then it's a wasted gift,
Mm,
because you were given the gift of your life in your body for your own enjoyment, for
mm.
your own, and it's more than enjoyment. It's not like pleasure, it's like bliss. It's like, oh look, it says
Freedom.
bliss. It says bliss
Blissed
out.
out.
Actually,
Blissed out.
that should be bliss in.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, bliss in.
yeah, it's actually a teaching. Blissed out was designed for
Okay.
my company so that when I'm
Oh, blissed
teaching
out. Yeah.
people, the aspect of bliss is what you
Yeah.
are. Out
Yeah.
with a big O was the enso of meditation, of enlightenment. And then out was you accepting yourself. So if you're going within, to come out is the full acceptance through the methodologies. So that's why I teach
Oh, okay. Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
like to go out and accept yourself too, like be you totally. And so
Yeah.
T, because a lot of people don't know why I put the T there, but there was the teaching of Zen with my Zen master of totality. And yeah, so that even that logo, it's all about my wings of Isis when she met me, and the Trishul from Mahadev when I met in union with the whole cosmic consciousness. So, the beauty of why we're here, friends, is me and Udo have a very good mirror to learn together, and we've challenged each other in certain atmospheres and always find each other because of the grace of our divine friend Andrew Resmer and our conscious living community. And having that opportunity, there's a beautiful story that started from some traumas into the unfolding of your presence and in what you're writing and what you are accountable to finishing at this time in your life, of your perception on writing, your perception on how you write, why you write, what you're doing with this work, and finally
Mhm.
bringing it to offer to the people to learn something about what you learned about yourself. So let's
Yeah.
continue more on
Yeah.
that beauty.
Yeah. Okay. So I have two projects. I'm 82, and so I knew in my 50s I was going to do what I'm doing now, but I also knew I wasn't mature enough yet to do it. It's very interesting that, like, it was very clear, and it was so now uh, I'm between too young and the box, right? And so now I'm in the mode of getting it done. And there's two things: is that we've been on this planet for 200,000 years at least. We don't, they argue about how long really we've been, and depends on how you define it,
Mm,
because maybe it was 6 million years ago, because
mm,
the monkeys started having bigger and bigger brains, or whatever the story is. But we've been around here for 200,000 years.
mm.
And we have never created a teachable field of health. You would think that would be one of the most important things.
Mm.
Who are we? What do we need? What is health made of? How does and the way I think about it is, well, health was invented by life in nature. But you can
Mm.
go back a little further and say health was invented by what invented life, which was awareness or
Mm.
consciousness,
Mhm.
invented life. So if you are part conscious and you're part life energy or solar energy, that is your life energy, and then that energy shines out as positive mind or inspiration to help, because you feel so cared for when you're fully present in your being, that the only thing left to do is to help. It's not
Mm.
about you anymore. It's like
Mhm.
when I started feeling that, oh my God, I am so cared for. If I don't feel cared for, I know where to go to feel cared for, because it's always there. The care is always there.
Mm.
Okay, so I do that. So they said, seek first the kingdom, you
Mm.
know, and the kingdom is within you.
Mm.
Hello. That's a pretty strong hint of where we should be putting our focus, at least some of the time, right?
Mm.
And then when I'm in that place, I feel so cared for. It's not about me. It's like, okay, what needs to be done? How can I help? How can I make the biggest splash for good in the time that I have?
Oh, beautiful
And
word.
so and so it's like total health based in awareness, life energy. Then the shine of that energy into the world is I call it inspired purpose.
Mm.
Then there's the body. That's what we usually talk about when we talk about health, which is about food, water, air, and activity, exercise, right? And
Mm.
then there's survival mind or protective mind.
Mm.
And that's because we live in an environment where things are food for other things, right?
Mhm.
So, and that's about skills as well as courage. And the courage comes from being in the empowering, unconditionally loving energy that is your life energy. And then
Mm.
outside of that is social group, and then outside of that is natural environment, and then the big picture, which is infinite awareness. And my access to infinite awareness is in the core of my being, in internal awareness.
Mm.
Internal awareness, if I go into that place, I notice that awareness is not limited to the dimensions of my body. It's
Mm.
actually a center of an awareness that goes from that center all the way out to infinity. And every human being is a center, and every spot in space is a center for an awareness that goes out to infinity without any boundaries. And
Mm.
each one of those, so that's like 8 pieces. Then emotions, which are a composite of all of that. And each one of those has a different nature, it has a different function, it needs a different kind of attention. It needs
Mm.
attention on a regular basis. It goes off in a different way, and it responds to a different kind of intervention.
Mm.
So that's a teachable field of total health. And we've never put that together. We got pieces, like the psychologists have a piece of it, and the biologists have a piece of it, and the doctors have a piece of it, although that's mostly disease management, not healthcare. Even though we call it healthcare, that's a misrepresentation, right?
Mm.
And we need, in order to live a whole life, to enjoy this temporary, the body is a terminal condition, right? So it's temporary. So we have some time, but we don't have a lot of time.
Mm.
And in that time, we want to give everything that we are, that we're made of. So part of us is divine, part of us is physical, part of us is mental, right? We need to give each one of those areas its due. And
Mm.
if we're aligned with all of them, then we have the life of the masters.
Mm. Yes.
And if we don't, when one gets out of line, that will affect us, and then we'll have trauma, and we'll have emotional stuff going on, and we'll have memories, and we'll get focused on that, and we'll lose our focus on the incredible magnificence
Mm.
of what this is,
Mm.
and what this is in this, right?
Mm.
It's like, oh my God. Oh my God, I had no idea. When I was that little kid in the war, I had no idea how incredibly beautiful this gift of life is.
Mm,
What was nice about it, though, the war that I was born in, I see it as a gift now, is
mm,
because it stripped me of all my culture and all my trust in all the stuff that we've invented in our mind. Because we got left, we lost everything. Like we lost the community and the farm and the friends and the country. And, the only thing we got left with is the clothes on our backs, the body we were in, and the life in that body. And then the awareness in that life. That's what we were left with.
mm,
So I got stripped all of the stuff that we get entitled about and
mm,
that we find hard to shake down to
mm,
get to the core of ourselves.
mm.
I got that taken away from me forcibly,
Mm.
and it's a huge gift because I had to start from scratch, and I don't believe anybody. So I want when I want to know something, I want to know it from my own experience.
Yeah, not borrowed knowledge.
Not not what?
Borrowed knowledge.
Yeah, not borrowed knowledge, not
Full
inherited
real
knowledge,
experiences.
not
Yeah.
not rote knowledge, not memorized knowledge, not a bunch of words. I want to know. I can come up with my own words. I can write my own poetry based on what I'm experiencing.
So is this what's happening with the book? Is like basically the approach is the same thing? Is like you've approached the book from that perspective?
Yeah, and the second part, which is related, is
Mm,
a teachable field of human nature.
mm,
It's like we have peace. Like people, when it's war, when it gets really crazy, say, "Oh God, give me peace. Oh God, give me peace." Do you know that peace is everywhere, all the time? Has never ever not been everywhere.
mm.
But only peace knows that. So if you haven't done your homework and brought your focus to the core of your being, you won't experience the peace that's there, and that peace goes out to infinity. So the war in the various places where there's war is taking place in perfect peace. But the focus of the people in the war is not on peace. It's on, you're my enemy, I'm going to kill you. You're my enemy, I'm going to kill you. Right? And then they play that because their focus is not on the gift of life. Their focus is on, you're my enemy. And yet the same divinity is in every enemy, and the same Christ and the same Buddha and the same Krishna is in every human being.
Yes. Yes. And
And it's,
but
a,
see,
it's like,
recognizing
and then if you think about that, it's like, what the hell are we doing?
well,
You know?
well, the main thing, now here's the thing with my first samadhi at age 19. We'll talk about reflecting this and why, there's karmatic cycles is because of the ashrams of living. So what I learned even with yoga, because of the cycles of 7 year cycles of age, even the development of our chakras and development of our interactions of like, even when we get our period, that the clock of 13 years old, these clocks are also a very big part of the Dharma wheel of life and the life that is, where they even talk about as sannyas after 50, 60 is usually when we're preparing for God. But some people awaken at a young age and recognize the presence of enlightenment right now, which you're in your own growth of having that for a very long time because of war, because war speeded up the process for survival mode and seeking something higher,
Mhm.
right? So your
It is,
presence,
yeah. Well, I mean, the war will either kill you or it will make you really negative or make you hide and be safe, try and be safe all the time. Or it will say, man, there must be a better way than this. And
mm,
really, for me, I got my nose so rubbed in it and that it really was a driver for me. That's why I say it. It was a gift, So was the all of my both my imposed and my self-made tragedies that I've created have
mm,
been my most important growing points.
mm.
Adversity is really good for spiritual growth. There's some people who pray that, please God, make my life hard so that I never forget you, right? Because there are no atheists in foxholes, right?
Mm.
And
Yeah,
so and so from that perspective, I would say, yeah, all of the worst things in my life have become my biggest great breakthroughs
So we
and
have
the
phase one, phase,
best teachers. Hmm?
phase one, phase two. You're talking about different parts. And
Yeah.
these the breakdowns in the book format?
Yeah. So that's the way I want to do like human nature is basically awareness, life energy, inspired purpose, physical body, and protective mind. Those,
Mhm.
and then there's a habitual mind, which is all the baggage that we picked up that is not useful, but that sort of keeps us stuck because it might have been useful 100,000 years ago, but it's no longer useful. But we still carry it around, and we still get taught it, and we haven't examined it to see if it's even true.
Mm.
And so then it becomes baggage that we carry. I call that habitual mind.
Mm.
And some of that's what, culture brings us that, and religion will bring us some of that, and national history will bring us some of that. And a lot of that stuff is best left behind. They say if you don't study history, you're bound to repeat it. No, if you study history, you actually normalize things that should never be normalized. So we might in some ways do better not studying history, but studying mystery,
And
right?
the mysticism. The
Yeah.
mysticism, yes. So within the next 5 minutes here, let's bring through. We're in phase one, two. Is there other phases of the book?
Uh, well, you know what? If I get those two things done, that's massive.
Okay.
You
So,
want me to do more? You want me to do more?
well, no, I just want to be of service. I'm going to be
Yeah,
of
no, no.
service. I'm like,
I'm just having fun.
no, but like I just love that there's, audience, there's something so miraculous about Udo as a human being. He holds such a beautiful, pure space and state with all the products that he shared with the world, the science and the things that he's trying to make improvements on. Um, his ability to be challenged, definitely when I saw him at that event that time, and then coming out to my event New Year's Eve and seeing each other again. This is just the love that you carry, Udo, and the grace of your soul. And I really feel a mirror there. I'm excited to learn more with you and share more with you. And I would love just to see, more people in their own enlightenment of what the nature said inside of them
Hmm.
expand, because that's what Blissed Out's all about. It's getting out there, being you. So the
Yeah.
more we have accountability to networks that are trying to help people thrive into finishing their projects, there'll be a movement of what the divine was doing inside you. Because really, when we realize the beingness or the state of the beingness, who's really the doer in you? The essence of mother and father, the creation energy that's in
Yeah.
us, is
Yeah.
actually the only leading force that's helping
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
evolution.
Yeah. A wise man that I listen to sometimes said the other day, he said, don't expect the government to save you. The savior lives within you. Get your help from there. Oh,
Yes.
wow. Right? The master lives inside of every human being, mostly undiscovered. The
Mm,
only difference between the masters and the non-masters was that the master took it seriously. He heard kingdom of heaven is within you and seek that first. And
mm,
they did that stillness practice, and they did get present to what a human being is. And
mm,
most of the people around it, they just dabble in it,
mm,
right? And then it's like when I'm fully present, there's an energy in that, and people like that energy. So if you don't want to do the homework, then one of the things people will do is they'll follow people who have that energy, who are doing the homework. But
exactly.
honestly, you can't always be with the person who's doing their homework. So why don't you be the person who's doing the homework? Because
Mm,
then you're always with that energy, because that energy is within you. It's more real than your thoughts. It's more real than your body. It's an
mm,
energy that is formless and indestructible, and
mm,
it makes you whole. I mean, it doesn't make you whole. You're whole to begin with. But wouldn't it be nice to discover that and live in the wholeness that you were given as a birthright?
yes, the who am I aspect. And I was listening to Ramana Maharishi, there's some beautiful aspects of the who am I. And after
Mm.
30 years of stepping into that, I think the other aspect before we go here, I want the audience to draw in is the fluctuations and the paradox. Because as much as we're stepping into the who am I and we know it, and we really need to practice that as the main pillar of coming back and mastering this mind. So we have methodologies to do that. And what method works for each individual? Well, there's many methods, but ultimately the only one method is that pure observation of breath, the
Yeah,
gap.
it's yeah,
When we
and it's the one you do is the one that'll work for you.
Yeah, well, the preparation to getting into that is
Yeah,
really there's many preparations. There's active aspects, there's movement, there's all these things, but really when we get blissed out or we are like working through totality enough, life will give us that glimpse where everything stops and we're just that pure observer. Now, when that draws in, and the gift of 30 years for me is when I had a full merge into cosmic consciousness. Now, I know now with the amount of energy and the voltages that have been through me and tapping into knowing this divine father within me, there's many varieties to perception of this light because of the physical body we're in. There's tissues, there's bones, there's stool, there's all this stuff. And wrapping that, context of this conversation of us getting into your perception on what is health and what is life is just giving people another methodology to come through maintaining this with a good life, with a good life of appreciation, because these modalities and the foundation of virtues or qualities that we learn from all the great masters that we step through and we recognize as the leading factor of what it is to be a great human is to shed light on what the divine's doing in us to contribute. So you're contributing your book, you're contributing the essence of your life and your truth. And that's the most beautiful thing of getting out there and being you with blissed out, right? So
yeah,
I,
it's an expression of the gift I've been given. Honestly, that's what it is. I've been
mm,
given a gift. Everybody was given a gift. It's called life. It's called the human body. It's called the human experience. I've been given that gift, and I'm trying to do. I really ask the question: what is the biggest splash for good that I can make in the time that I have? And again, I think because I was primed for that by the war, I take it kind of take it seriously. And it's not something that somebody told me I should be doing. It's just this like, I'd like to do that. Oh, I want to do that. We haven't done that for 200,000 years.
mm,
Okay, I'll do it. Okay, it's time. It's about
mm,
time we did. It's about time we got real with ourselves. And so it's like it's my joy that I get to do that. And it's hard work because it's like trying to bring something to expression. It's hard work, and organizing it. It's like, so. But I'm sort of obsessed with it
good,
because I think it's so important,
good.
and so much suffering that we have because we haven't created a teachable field, guidelines that we can follow to get to come to ourselves, to find our freedom, to find our power, to find our essence, to find our bliss, to find our magnificence, to find our beauty.
Mm,
uh, you know, and it's not, it's like the thing that's most easily forgotten. So it's
mm.
the thing that we most need to be reminded of. So
On that
that's
note, I feel like we have wrapped up one chapter. I would like to revisit this again, and I
yeah.
feel like there'll be more to expand, but also to hold you to accountability with getting
You're going to
out
hold me
there.
accountable. I'm accountable to life.
Yes,
I'm accountable to awareness.
yes. And
Yeah.
the accountability of love. So for me, I think
For love. Yeah.
the accountability to love is why we podcast or why we have friendships is that
Yeah.
whatever we have, remember the tools of my social network. I do have
Yeah.
friends out there. I'm here to
Yeah.
support. Friends,
Yeah.
anybody that's watching this too,
Yeah.
reach out. Just remember,
Ram does.
networking and net worth
Yeah.
is an opportunity to be open to the divine in between the moments.
Yeah. Ram Dass said, what did he say? He said, we're all just here to walk each other home.
Thank
I
you
thought,
so
well,
much.
that's cool.
So good.
Thank you. All
So
right.
good. So that's a wrap for today. But friends, do check out everything with Udo. You have your website, Udo. What's the website again?
udoerasmus.com. It's in a work in progress. I haven't posted what I'm talking about. I haven't posted most of it yet, but
Mm.
it's
A
coming.
good place to start. And we're here today and we're good friends, and I'm sure we'll get through it together. So much love to you, brother,
All right.
and your
And you.
legacy, and see you soon for a big hug. Namaste.